my name is Jameson, and I wanted to talk about the real ghosts at Walt Disney World's Haunted Mansion attraction in the Magic Kingdom Park. Now, I'm specifically referring to Walt Disney World in Orlando, Florida. I used to be a cast member at the Haunted Mansion attraction. I was there for over a year. While I was there, I was a trainer and an efficiency coach, but I no longer work for the Walt Disney Company. I want to explain my experiences with paranormal activity before we really dive into this video here. I grew up as a hater of paranormal activity. I was like, there's no such thing as ghosts. I had this friend and I was driving him home and he's like, this one place is supposed to be really haunted. Park the car here and we're gonna see if there's any ghosts. And I was like why? There's no such thing as ghosts. Like, why would I actually do that? I turned the car off and I'm like, I'm bored after 3 minutes. Like, can we leave? Because there's nothing here. I go to turn the car on. The key didn't turn. It wasn't like the car wouldn't start. It was like something was keeping the key from turning. Icy cold air started blasting and the windows started fogging up and there was something in the back seat. I could clearly see a shadow in the back seat of the minivan and it was like, it felt really evil. I did the logical thing and I prayed to Jesus that the thing would go away because, like, what are you gonna do? You know, there's the thing in the backseat of your minivan. So we got out of there, whatever. The car started somehow, I don't know. And I prayed the whole way home. It was wonderful. It scared the crap out of me because I was like, apparently ghosts are real or something. And it felt so negative, so evil, that I was like, I don't want anything to do with ghosts. So I get to the Haunted Mansion, I'm working there, and it's a great time. After a few weeks working there, it becomes apparent to me that there's stories going around of 3 different ghosts that actually live in the Haunted Mansion. I was completely uninterested in the ghosts because of my previous experience in that car. I was like, I'm skeptical if there's even ghosts here. People want there to be ghosts here so bad that they're saying that there's ghosts here. I was like, there's no proof on this. But then I actually eventually saw 2 of them. So, you know, and those experiences were very calm, and I didn't have that validation that it was actually haunted until paranormal activity happened to me in the Haunted Mansion. So I'm gonna start by telling you the 3 ghosts that live in the Haunted Mansion. The first ghost, and the lamest ghost, is a little girl in the ballroom. I don't really know what her deal is. Only a couple people had told me that they saw her, and she just like laughs. Like, that's it. She's ha 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 ha. Like, that's it. It's not a big deal. She's ha ha ha. Somewhere in the ballroom. The second ghost is a man in the seance circle. He stays limited to the seance circle, and he's just chilling there. And the third and most notorious is a little boy who stays in the front part of the attraction, such as like the entrance area, the foyer, the stretching room area, the entry hall, the load station, and the unload station. So I wanted to share some stories with you about these ghosts of the Haunted Mansion. And even though I no longer work at Disney, and I have no intention of ever working at Disney again, I wanted to preserve the integrity of Disney. So I'm just gonna tell you stories that happened when the park was open, when the ride was open, and when guests were in the attraction. Like, if you are a guest going to Disney World and there's something that you couldn't have seen, I'm not gonna tell you those stories. I personally had no experiences with the little girl, and very few people did. So she's there. We had the little boy. This little boy was very mischievous. Basically, the little boy would play pranks on people, especially cast members. I will tell you that I had one personal experience with the little boy. However, the park was not open, and it's not something that I can really explain without explaining the inner workings of the Haunted Mansion. So just know that I had an experience, and it wasn't that great. A ton of my coworkers had experiences with the little boy. It was crazy. So the little boy was a pranky spirit. You know, he would just do crap and freak people out. There is a cast member who stands at the exit of the ride when the Doom buggies are coming in, and that cast member tells people to exit out of the buggy and to watch their step on a moving walkway. Something this little boy did frequently, especially during Halloween parties while the attraction was open and running, is when there was a group of buggies that were open, he would sit in a buggy. As it came into the unload station, he would pop his head out and he would laugh. The cast member, thinking it was a person, would be like, please exit out. The little boy would lean back in, he might do it again, and then when the buggy finally came around, there would be nobody in it. I talked to so many people who had these experiences with the little boy doing that, specifically with the buggy in the unload area. The little boy was really fond of untying people's shoes and untying aprons and tugging on aprons of the girls. I had several friends and coworkers who would be working and they would feel tugging on their apron and then it was untied when nobody was around them at all. People would have untied shoelaces, like both of them would be untied all of a sudden after some tugging on their feet. Just a lot of really kind of stupid, immature things that repeatedly happened over and over and over. One particularly scary story is I had a coworker who was very new. He hadn't heard any of the ghost stories of the Haunted Mansion during his training, and he had to go through the stretching room by himself. The stretching room is completely closed, and as he's in the stretching room, the little boy appeared. So he's totally in this room by himself, and the little boy pops in and freaked him out. I was standing on the other side of the exit door, and my coworker just started screaming. When the door opened at the end, he ran out and was just like, he didn't want to go back in there again. We may have some photographic evidence of the little boy, but like, I feel like every time there's like a ghost photographic evidence, it's always so loose, and it's like, this is not conclusive to me, but I'm gonna show you anyway. We found that these ghosts were pretty active during the Halloween party events. We had to get makeup done at Halloween. I've never had makeup like that done before, but I just kind of rolled with it. We would go and take pictures or have friends take pictures of us in the makeup. And we would go into the graveyard area and take these pictures. I've heard that since I've left, they no longer allow the cast members to do this, but this is something that we did. There were guests in the attraction. Two of my coworkers went out to take a picture next to one of the graves in the interactive queue. I'm in the foyer. I hear these girls screaming outside, and they come running in. And I guess what happened is as this one girl was posing for a picture, an orb of light flashed past her, and the person taking the picture happened to get that on camera. I'm gonna include that picture here, but I'm gonna like block out her face and block out her name tag because I feel like it'd be rude to include that. There's not a lot you can conclude from that. According to them, they saw some paranormal activity while they were out there and they got something on camera, and that's just the picture that was taken there. My experience with the little boy really wasn't that great. I just saw him, so like, don't worry about it, don't worry about it. Now we're gonna talk about the man in the seance circle. So about halfway through the ride, there is the seance circle. This lady, Madame Leota, calls all the spirits to come forth and have a party. Without getting into the technical aspects of what happened, sometimes there can be 2 minutes of people riding the attraction, and then there can be 2 minutes of people not riding the attraction. I'm not here to like spill secrets of the operation, so I'm not gonna explain why. I was training a trainer how to be a trainer while simultaneously training a trainee. During the training process, we would take our trainees on the attraction multiple times so they became familiar with the attraction. That day the ride was running 2 minutes with people, 2 minutes without people, but it's an omni-mover, so the ride is continuously moving. So the attraction was open. I waited till there was a gap to take myself and the 2 people I was training onto the ride. We all sat on one buggy, and I wanted to make sure there's nobody around so that we could talk as loud as we could about the show scenes, emergency exits, and just like the things you needed to know. We're about a third through the seance circle and the ride stops. Something I feel like people should know is when you're on any Disney Omnimover and the ride stops, it's not like the ride's broken, usually. For the vast majority of the time, there's a guest with a mobility disability who needs some assistance, who cannot get onto a moving walkway. The ride stopped when we were about a third through the seance circle. I look over 3 vehicles to my left, and there is a man sitting there. Keep in mind, there's absolutely nobody on before we got on, nobody after we got on, but there were other people on the attraction, but we're the only ones at that time in the seance circle. The seance circle, if you don't know, all of the buggies are facing inwards, so you can see into the other vehicles around you. So I look over 3 vehicles, and there's this man, but he's like tall, and it's a shadow of a man. It's really kind of hard to describe, but he was holding onto the handlebar, just staring ahead at Madame Leota. I was like, this is not real. And even though it's dark in there, you can definitely see the shadow of this man. Keep in mind, I've gone on this attraction in my life over 300 times. I know the ride very well, and that's not part of it. It was exactly what other coworkers had described, that this man just sits there and stares ahead. And I wanted to make sure I wasn't seeing things, so I nudged the people next to me. I was like, yo, what do you see over there? I didn't say, hey, there's a man over there, do you see it? I just wanted to make sure I wasn't like seeing things. And both of the girls next to me were like, there's a man over there. Like, all three of us saw it, and we're just staring. And whereas I felt really this like sense of evil in the car, I felt a super sense of peace. It was a completely different vibe, and I wasn't afraid. It was just very kind of calm. So I was looking at the dude, and he's just staring ahead. I was like, do I call out to the dude? Do I try to start a conversation? Like, this is a really rare opportunity for me. So when the ride started moving again, I kept my eyes on him as we went throughout the seance circle. After the seance circle, you go up and you kind of do an outward curve, and then all the cars are in a straight line as you go through the ballroom area. So I kept my eye on him as long as I could. His vehicle turned around the corner. When we got to the ballroom area, I leaned over to see if he was still there, and he was not. I took my flashlight on the vehicle just to make sure nobody was there. We all got off the ride. I was like, yo, we gotta tell everybody that we just saw a ghost in the Haunted Mansion. So we did. I don't know the stories of why these people are there. I will say something. If you go up to a cast member at the Haunted Mansion and you ask, are there real ghosts? They're not supposed to tell you. Multiple times a day, I feel like a person would come up to me and ask, are there real ghosts in here? Even after I had seen the ghost in the seance circle, I'd always have to answer, there's 999 ghosts or something that fit within the story of the Haunted Mansion. If you go up to a cast member at Walt Disney World and you ask them, are there real ghosts in here? They should tell you no. I always told guests no. It's kind of inappropriate for a cast member to tell you this building is haunted when Disney is trying to sell this really happy image. I would advise not asking the cast members working there because they should tell you no. If they tell you that there are real ghosts in there, they're not doing what they're supposed to. As a trainer, I definitely told people not to mention it. If somebody did mention it, I would pull them aside and be like, you can't do that. The fact that I'm making this video now, I don't know. I don't work for Disney anymore. I used to love Disney. I definitely had some great times while I was there. This is the first time I've ever mentioned on my channel that I worked for Disney. My whole entire life, I was the Disney kid, and then I went and worked at Disney World. Disney was kind of part of my personal identity, and now it's not. So the rest of my videos on the channel don't really have too much to do with Disney. If I'm talking about my past, I will mention Disney. I definitely do believe in ghosts after my experiences, but that doesn't mean that I believe everything that anybody tells me. I'm still very skeptical of ghost stories. I think a lot of times people want there to be ghosts. As skeptical as I am with my experiences, I can definitely for certain say that the little boy and the man are there. The little girl in the ballroom, I haven't had any personal experiences with. So, I'm sure she's great. Like, each their own, you do you, girl. But I appreciate you guys checking out my other videos here. Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe and have a great, happy day.